Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry, 24/7 shopping available. 160920 is the code. Show her some love, like she showed us.
Hello and welcome to Tuesday Night Mania, brought to you by Coast to Coast Entertainment Network. I am hosting tonight. Ace has had a little technical issues, but he hopes to be on shortly, so I'll take the reins for right now. I am Big B, and of course I'm joined by the guy to my left, your right, I think. Joe, how's it going, bud?
I'm doing good, man. You're in trouble tonight. You got no tag team partner.
Nah, I could always call on Chris. Chris will hop on. But
My
anyway.
partner is right below, right? Oh, now he's to my left.
Yeah, we're talking about tag team partners, Chris, and there's our man behind the scene, Chris. So if we need him, he'll hop on with a point or two. But below there, from Top Rope Collectibles, the man, the myth, the professor of Tuesday Night Mania, Will, how's it going?
Man, it's going great. You know, it's nothing like the rush going straight from the Tuesday night sale straight into the podcast. Always a lot of fun, man. Glad to be here. Huge shout out to everybody in TRC. Huge shout out to everybody in Thoughts Count Anywhere. And glad to be here in Coast to Coast Entertainment Network and ready to talk some wrestling.
Yep, exactly. We got the comments coming in. Everybody saying hi. Thomas Burnett's in. Roger Cooper's in, and the Chief's in the house. How you guys doing tonight? And again, just keep interacting. We'll get to those comments. So let's start off like we normally do with an Impact TNA or Impact and AEW recap. Joe, why don't you start with the recaps there?
Well, I'll start with AEW. Viewership was down again, as we talked about. Ratings doesn't mean anything in today's world, but I think they hit one of their lowest, under 300,000 views. And that's kind of a shame for them, but going into Forbidden Door this weekend, still a lot of unanswered questions there. Is Brian Danielson going to be able to wrestle this weekend? We'll know tomorrow night. The long-awaited Christian Cage turn happened last week. He gave a good old Jungle Boy a chair shot to the head to send him off a little bit. Got new AEW Tag Team Champions and the Young Bucks, which I thought was a very good ladder match for those two teams. But overall, they're finishing up their Mid-Atlantic Championship Tournament, which will conclude at Forbidden Door. But other than that, not a whole lot to talk about on the AEW end, which there should be more with a lot of that talent storylines going on, but nothing's really popping out right now.
Yeah, no doubt. And joining shortly will be our man Ace of Mania, as we'll like to call him. There he is. So take it away, Ace. You got the mic now. We're just talking AEW and Impact recap.
Have we finished that yet or not?
No, we kind of just started. Joe broke down AEW Wednesday. I know you watched Slammiversary, so what do you think?
That was an awesome pay-per-view. I'll tell you, Slammiversary. It's interesting how people talk about how. So, did anybody see how they were talking up that this was their 20th year in Impact, and then people were kind of giving Impact a hard time, actually commenting, saying, "Okay, so you said you've been here for 20 years, but are you actually here?" And I'm like, "What does that even mean?" Yes, they're actually here. Like, they're right here. And so they actually put on a very good pay-per-view. Did anybody else get a chance to see it?
No, I read the results, saw some highlights. So
I saw quite a bit of it, especially the main event.
That main event was awesome.
I did also see D'Lo get his frog splash in. I thought that was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. So, Will, what did you think of the main event? Josh Alexander and Eric Young was amazing. Like, that match lived up to the hype.
Right.
I said before we went on the air, I said the hottest wrestling show right now, believe it or not, is Impact Wrestling. I think they are putting on some amazing matches right now. Really good storytelling. And 20 years, man. The old story was those guys wouldn't be around 6 weeks, 6 months a year, and and whether they're TNA or Impact Wrestling, they've been around 20 years, and I think they got another good, strong run in them. I think Scott D'Amore has got that thing channeled down right now, doing a really good job. I'm impressed with him. He just needs to make Impact more available for viewers that can't watch it, maybe on Access or something like that. Maybe they get to a new time slot or a different channel or something like that. But overall, man, I'm excited for Impact for the first time in a long time.
Speedball Mike Bailey winning the X Division title, that was a really good match too. I really enjoyed that. I, for one, I was kind of with the crowd afterwards when they started going, you deserve it, because for like the longest time I'm like, when is he going to get the X Division title? Like I was sitting there going, this dude has deserved it for so long, and he finally got it, and I felt so good for him. The only thing that I guess it was still a good match, but I didn't like the outcome was when the Good Brothers beat the Briscoes. I was like, come on, man.
Yeah.
I wanted the Briscoes to stay champions and go.
Did they beat them clean or anything like that, or did they?
They did, but still, I still thought that the Briscoes should have won that match. That was like the only one that I'm like, I kind of questioned. I was like,
and then I heard Madison Rayne broke her nose or something in her match.
Yeah, it was, and you could tell, like
both bones, I guess.
Yeah, it was like one of the things that like you could immediately tell, and you're like, oh, she's got to be in pain. Like you immediately knew it.
So the only thing I'll say about Impact, Slammiversary was really good, but how many months now have we been calling it that Impact is really putting on good storylines and really putting on good matches and really good characters? And one other thing I'd like to say is I was super excited. It wasn't this past week, it was the week before, to see Murdoch take that 10 pounds of gold belt back off of Matt Cardona.
Yeah.
So really quick before
he did take it off of Cardona, though, didn't he? That wasn't a 4-way.
Yeah, it was a 4-way. I mean, Cardona had to give it up, but
Cardona was still the champion.
Yeah. Okay.
But anyways, the one thing that I will touch on Impact just before we move on, I know you guys may not agree with this, because trust me, I didn't agree with the statement either when they said it, but they said that Impact had started going downhill once Tony Khan and AEW had backed out, and I was like, no, I don't agree with that at all. Like, I don't believe they've been going downhill. I believe they've actually been going uphill. They're on like the uphill swing right now, and I wish for once, like I do wish that Impact would be on a better station that a lot more people could get, because I think they would get a heck of a lot more viewers if they did.
You know who I think is going to make a hell of an Impact champion soon?
Who's that?
PCO.
I really hope so, man. I really hope so.
You know who my guest is for the Gathering in Charlotte, North Carolina on August 5th?
I know why you said it. Why you said it.
Yeah.
I mean, legit, the guy's 54 years old, and he's out there outperforming 20 and 30-year-olds. So I legit think he could be the world champion in Impact.
Well, I seen their spoiler for who is challenging Josh Alexander next, but I won't spoil it. But it's definitely not PCO yet.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of potential there for sure. The guy's 54 years old, and he's moving like a lightweight, so he's got a lot of potential.
Yeah, for his age, man, you see him doing flips over the top ropes and diving through the ropes, and I'm like when I started seeing that, I was like, this guy's insane.
Look at his match. Look at his match with Jonah. So if you were to go back and look at 1993, 1994, when he was Quebecer Pierre, he didn't do half the stuff he does now. And you're talking 28 years ago when he was Quebecer Pierre.
Oh, that's who that is. Okay.
So
let's not forget, he's got a glass eye, right?
So, and that may be the case, but 28, 29 years ago, he wasn't doing half the stuff he's doing now at 54 years old. So that's an incredible talent to still be going as hard as he's going. That guy's incredible. As a matter of fact, I talked to him just a couple days ago, and I will see him in person this Sunday. And then, of course, again, just a reminder, August 5th, he'll be Top Rope Collectibles guest at the Gathering in Charlotte. It's a big convention there. So we're really, really looking forward to that.
All right, so we do have a few comments that are coming through. Roger Cooper saying, "Yep, it was one of the best shows so far." Kev Buckler is saying, "I'm really enjoying Impact." Brian Howarth is saying, "What's up, fellas? How's it going, Brian?" Warren Morlow is in the house. He's saying, "What's going on? Hey, what's up?" I'm saying, "Hey guys," and Roger Cooper saying, and he's talking about the whole AEW thing. Once they left, he's saying that kind of lit a fire under Impact to kind of really get him going. And Tom Burnett saying PCO is insane. Go ahead, Joe.
I will say about AEW and the Impact situation. Impact needed it to get back on track.
Yep.
And it did help that Kenny Omega and those guys was their champion. It gave it some credibility. So when somebody did take it off, they could go and continue moving forward, and that's exactly what they've done since then. But they needed somebody at that time to help get Impact going. But once that happened, man, they're rolling. Once they got through the pandemic and got back on the road, like, as I said a couple months ago, once they started taking their shows back on the road, then we would start to see really what Impact was. Because before that, we all agreed, man, they had like a 0.1 rating, like, what, it was 100 viewers one day, and I'm like, yeah, I watched that Thanksgiving show. It was horrible, but I watched it. But now, look at it, man. They're rocking.
So can I make one more point though?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Speaking of Impact, the NWA shows too. If you have the opportunity to catch them, it comes on at like 2:00 in the morning here. It's really late, but it reminds me of the old ECW before it was ECW, the Eastern Championship Wrestling days, where it comes on at like 2:00 in the morning. And they've got some really good shows too, and they've got some really tremendous talent there. So we definitely need to get some time and focus on there. Number two, second point real quick is, I see a lot of guys commenting in the chat right now. Guys, I want to get my weekly invite in. Anybody in the chat, if you guys are ever interested in jumping on here, talking with us, joining us, I know we had a couple people here and there. We want to be as interactive as possible. So, guys, please, if you're interested in joining us and getting on here and discussing these things and bringing another point of view to the table, please let us know so we can get you the invite. And you guys are more than welcome to join us. Back to you, Ace.
Yeah. Now I kind of lost. Oh no! Now I remember what I was going to say, because there was one thing that I was actually really confused about. Just really quick, when I first saw the Good Brothers, for some reason originally I thought that they were signed to AEW, and then once AEW left, I saw them in Impact. I'm like, oh wait, they must be part of Impact, because originally I thought that they were signed to AEW, but that's.
No, they signed with Impact right after their WWE contracts, or when they were let go from WWE. And the rumor was that their contracts were coming up and they could go to AEW this year, but it looks like with them putting the titles back on them, they may have re-signed, and they just haven't been announced yet.
So two things with those guys. Number one, incredible workers in the ring. I don't mind watching them wrestle. But number two, in person, I can't stand either one of them personally. I think they're lousy to their fans in person, and but in the ring, working their matches, incredible. So I'll say that.
I was going to say, does that stem back from that conversation we had where they were in Indy with Miss Green?
Yes.
Okay.
What about America's Most Wanted coming back together? I thought that kind of shocked me.
Oh, yeah,
I didn't know.
That was cool.
Yeah.
Roger Cooper, really quick, is saying that he thought they signed back to New Japan.
Well, they're working there, but they're not. They can go back and forth like Jay White and those guys are.
Now, catch me up a little bit. I know they brought Aces and Eights back. D'Lo Brown and who? There's only three guys, right?
Wes Briscoe,
or was it just a one-time thing?
Garrett Briscoe, and it was a one-time deal, pretty much.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, they're still kind of using it, though, a little bit, but I don't know if they'll actually continue to go with the story of Aces and Eights, but...
Yeah.
Speaking of Aces and Eights, did anybody catch Bully Ray on the NWA show, man? He lost a lot of weight. Did you notice that?
No, I missed that.
Yep.
His old partner Mike Knox put him through a table on that show.
He's doing a lot of appearances all of a sudden too, where he was real quiet for a long time.
He did a really good Stone Cold podcast on the network there, man. You got to check that out.
Yeah, I got to check that out. I definitely want to check that out.
But, yeah, I noticed it the other day. I was like, holy cow, he lost a lot of weight up in here. I'm like, still a big bad boy, though.
All right, so moving on to our next topic here, we'll go ahead and go into, because we know that Sasha Banks was released from WWE. Basically, what brought this up was somebody had left a comment saying that since Sasha Banks is gone now from WWE, that the women's division is basically dead. That's basically what they're saying. So the question right now that I'm asking you guys is, because we kind of had a brief discussion about this in the chat. I, for one, feel like they're going to be just fine without Sasha Banks. They have plenty more women there that have plenty of talent. I think they're going to be just fine. But Joe, I'll start out with you. Do you think that now that the women's division is worse off because Sasha's gone?
I could care less about Sasha Banks, to be honest with you. Call it what you will. And it's no disrespect to her. I just think her professionalism and stuff like that, if you don't want to be there, don't be there. And I think that's for any talent out there. If you don't want to be there, just go. Let them go. She isn't going to make or break the division. She was a trendsetter a little bit with Charlotte and all those, and Becky and all that. But I mean, like you said, they got a lot of great talent coming up. They need to do more. That's the only my downfall with the WWE right now is the women's division. I think AEW and Impact have a better women's roster right now of showcasing talent. So other than that, she was a cancer. I'm more curious to see what they're going to do with Naomi, being that her husband is a top featured guy. Is she? Are they going to bring her back, or is she going to get her released, or is she going to join the Bloodline like a lot of them have been speculating? That's who I'm more curious to see. But they'll survive. The WWE always survives, even with this whole scandal thing going on, or how we know it's. As you seen the other day, where somebody said, "Oh, AEW is going to beat WWE now." That's not going to happen. We have a better chance of doing that in a video game than somebody doing that in real life.
Yeah, so Warren saying AEW women's roster is complete trash. Stop it.
Hey, they're better than the WWE roster at this point.
I don't know about that one.
I would give AEW women's tag team titles right now over WWE women's tag team titles.
But the women's matches have not even been close to being as good.
Dude, you got the next Goldberg, Jade Cargill in there. She's awesome. You got Britt Baker, dude. She is.
So, not to interrupt, but who is the number one women's wrestler in the whole world right now?
I go Britt. I go Britt.
I got to go with Charlotte.
Exactly.
You dirty man.
I got to go with Charlotte.
In the whole world right now is Charlotte Flair. So
no way.
Well, let the fans decide, because right now we're split. We're 2-2.
Britt Baker, absolutely face of the AEW. We've talked about that 100 times. Mm-hmm. We've covered that over and over here. Yeah. If you think about AEW, you think about Britt Baker. But the number one women's wrestler in the whole world, most recognizable women's wrestler in the whole world right now, multi-time champion, is Charlotte Flair. So at that point, I think you have to look at that as the contribution to the locker room. And, AEW has a good product, not great, but a good product. They have a good locker room. They made a huge mistake with putting this belt on Thunder, which, I thought was going to be a good run. I think it's a terrible run now. They need to have her drop that belt as fast as possible and have Britt chase that belt really quick.
So Thomas.
Let's take it to the polls, man. Let's find out.
Take it to the polls.
Well, right now it's 2-1 Charlotte.
So, because Thomas says Dr. Baker, but then
he's a smart man.
But then Thomas Glenn says Charlotte Flair, and then Warren says Charlotte Flair. So right now, Charlotte Flair's kind of winning right now. I'm telling you.
We took it to the polls. You guys asked for the polls. We took it to the polls.
I want to recount.
Poll down. That poll's over with. That's been
The number
No,
one
I can't
world
argue.
for female
I
is
can't.
Charlotte Flair.
I can't
it's
argue
like
the
voting
Charlotte
for
Flair debate.
president, man.
I
We're
mean,
screwed either way.
you know,
Go ahead.
we're probably gonna be debating this with you know,
I
like
will
we
say
always
though,
did with
Charlotte
Hogan
Flair
and
seems
Flair.
more marketable than any AEW woman wrestler right now. I'll give you that. Okay, but I don't know. It's tough.
So let me throw this one out there to you too, because we got to move on to the next topic because we always miss out on topics. But who is the number one men's wrestler in the world right now?
CM Punk.
Oh,
Roman Reigns.
it's
Roman.
Roman Reigns, dude.
It's Roman.
Crispy,
You know
you might
why?
have to turn off Joe's
You know
mic.
why?
tonight.
Because of the
I
simple
said
fact,
what I
because-
say. I said Roman.
But
because
first you said CM Punk.
I know, but I did that as a joke. I could have said Sami Zayn's number one,
Absolutely, it's
because
Roman.
CM
Absolutely.
Punk is the 2 and Roman Reigns is the 1.
There you
That's
go.
why. Right there.
I don't even think Punk's number 2, guys.
No way.
I don't
No.
think Punk's top 10.
No way. Randy Orton.
Oh, he'll be top 10
considered
this
number
year,
2.
but I don't think he'll be number
How
2.
could you consider anybody other than Roman than Randy as number 2? Randy's he's the only person left from 20 years ago that could still potentially tie Cena and Flair for 16 world titles.
Yeah, and to kind of bring up another point on the Roman part here, when you think about it, though, just think because SmackDown, you know, they were averaging about like 1,800, right? Well, then it turned out that Reigns was going to be on SmackDown, and all of a sudden it comes up and they had like 2,300. And I'm like, so you're telling me that Roman is not Roman is a draw, man. People show up to watch Reigns.
Well, you think he had that shirt that said needle mover after they AEW said he wasn't a needle mover. He comes on there and
I think what Ace is talking about isn't 1,800 to 2,300. I think he's talking about 1.8 million, not 1,800.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
I tune in every week with him just to see who
if
has a
if
shot.
it was 1,800, they'd close the doors.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I meant 1.8 million. Sorry.
Yeah, yes.
Only thing I'm not happy with the Roman thing is we're going to get another Brock Roman at SummerSlam. I'm not happy with that one, and I understand why, but
you know what? I love it. You know why? Last man standing. It's the Beast. The Beast is back, and you know why?
Only how that works is if they separate the titles again.
It's a moneymaker. I'm telling you, that's why they're doing it. It's a moneymaker.
Ace, we're missing a lot of great comments. There's great comments in this chat.
I'm watching. So we have Warren that's saying with Jada as their champ, stop it. And definitely nobody compares to Charlotte. I'm saying Dr. Baker. Warren saying AEW is run by a fanboy that doesn't know true wrestling longevity booking. And which is
God.
Sustainability. So that's sustainability. How many times have we brought that up right here? Sustainability, and they're not sustainable at this moment. That's absolutely correct. Warren is spot on, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I like his comment about CM Punk too. That has not been a needle mover.
So Thomas is saying keep the polls open. Thomas is saying Roman. Thomas Glenn is saying I would have said Tessa if it not for her trouble.
That's a great point. That's
what I was going to get at.
Tessa's a great talent. The problem is not Tessa. The problem is Tessa's husband. Nobody wants to deal with him, so she can't get booked anywhere. That's the issue.
Well, she had that big falling out with Women of Wrestling here just a couple weeks ago, right? Because
True, but
attitude.
Still,
but I mean,
the reason she's not in AEW, the reason she's not in WWE is 100% because of Daga, correct? So that's
why she lost the Impact title, because she was in Mexico and he wouldn't let her come back.
Yep, that's the issue.
Yeah, but right now, Tessa is more like, I wouldn't say irrelevant, but she's kind of way down there now to where a lot of people just don't even talk about her anymore.
So Tessa versus Charlotte, who you got?
Oh,
that's tough. But
I think that's kind of blasphemous just to even ask.
Let's do a forbidden door so they're not a part of any company. Tessa versus Charlotte.
There you
go. Right. That's crazy.
I think overall, better in-ring wrestler is Tessa overall. Better performer and entertainer, Charlotte by far. But the
So,
actual
Do we get the
wrestler,
do we get the fathers in both corners?
I saw Tessa wrestle when she was probably 18 years old down in Ybor City down here. Joe, you know where Ybor is at. And
Yeah.
I saw her wrestle for Shine Wrestling. And she was the star of the night. And it had to be one of her first nights she was ever there and was incredible. But in ring wise, she would destroy most women talent. She looks really good. She moves very good. She has a tremendous moveset. And she has the mental part of it that a lot of them don't have. But entertainment wise, speaking on the mic wise, we don't really know because she's never really been given that opportunity to be a front runner and on television.
So Thomas Glenn is saying Tessa. Warren is saying Charlotte and Tessa would be the best match, and then Roger saying the fans would win that one.
I agree.
Which that's probably I would definitely agree with that. And then Thomas is asking, can Tully even work?
I think he has a neck injury, so I don't know. Hell, Stone Cold had a neck injury for 20 years and come out and fought 2 men in the same night, so I don't know.
No, Ric Flair's coming back and wrestling his last match. In a bigger building. There you go.
Be there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did you see that the venue?
You're gonna be there?
Changed?
Yeah.
Sweet,
I will be there.
All right, so let's go ahead and move on to our next one, which is the historical moments, the Great American Bash and King of the Ring 95.
Did he just say he hated me?
I think that's what he said.
I would never have said that.
I think he said I hate you.
No, I did not.
Oh, so Warren.
I said good. I don't know what I said, but it definitely was not hate you, man. You no, don't start a war. We're supposed to be.
It sounded like you said that, right?
No, we're
all right, guys.
up, damn it.
Historical moments.
Hold on, we have some comments here, just really quick. All right, so Coach is saying Tessa with Tully versus Charlotte with Rick with Arn as referee. And
that's like 500 years combined wrestling experience in one ring.
and then Warren saying that he'll be there too for Flair's last match.
Nice. I'll see you there, Warren. Awesome. We'll be there all weekend.
Say hate you, I did not mean to say that hate you because I'm looking at my dog back here making noises, so that might have been who I directed at. So just let you know.
All right. Well, now we can go into our historical moments. So there you go.
Guys, historical moments for the month of June. Last week we kind of had a flashback into an older Royal Rumble, which is really cool. But June 18th, 1995, Great American Bash, Macho Man, Ric Flair had this long-standing feud forever and ever and ever. WWF days, WCW days, and it was never a bad match. You never had a bad match when it was Macho versus Ric Flair. Although you very, very rarely ever saw the Macho Man beat Ric Flair. That was very limited. I can only remember maybe 2 times ever that I saw Macho and Ric Flair go at it, that Macho won. One of those times being WrestleMania 8 for the WWF Championship, which he ultimately lost back to Ric Flair that summer. Great American Bash, tremendous event. The matches on the card, absolutely tremendous. One of the matches that really stands out was the main event. You got Angelo Poffo sitting at ringside in his chair while Macho Man is defending his honor against Ric Flair. Ric Flair's got Arn Anderson in his corner. Tremendous matchup. These guys had just come off of what was it? It was Slamboree at it was in St. Pete. I can't remember the Bayonet Center, or I can't remember what it was called. Bayfront Center. Bayfront, yep. In St. Pete. And those two, it was Flair and Vader versus Hogan and Savage. And then, of course, after that match, Vader and Arn and Flair beat up Angelo Poffo, which was the Macho Man's dad. So, you didn't have a world championship at stake at the Great American Bash 95 in the main event. And the pay-per-view still drew a tremendous amount of buys because everybody wanted to see Macho Man get his hands on Ric Flair after what he had done to his dad. So, honestly, it was back when wrestling was truly believable and just great storylines. Fast forward over to the King of the Ring 95. So if you think about it this way, the Great American Bash 95 was June 18th, 95. The King of the Ring 95 was June 25th, 95. So literally the very next Sunday was King of the Ring 95. We've covered some of the parts of that before too. So I'm going to go into the kind of the highlights. The biggest thing there was King Mabel, of course, wins the King of the Ring. Goes on to face Diesel for the WWF Championship at SummerSlam. You had some other great matches in there. But Mabel winning that King of the Ring was such a stunner because ultimately we've discussed the possibilities of if Razor Ramon wasn't hurt, would that have been the year that Razor would have won the King of the Ring 95? Would he have gone on to face Diesel at SummerSlam 95? Would he have possibly become the WWF champion at SummerSlam 95? So there was a lot of opportunity there that was possibly lost. The standout match from King of the Ring 95, no matter what other matches were on the card, of course, is Bret the Hitman Hart versus Jerry the King Lawler in the Kiss My Foot match. So the thing about the Kiss My Foot match is first of all, it was a tremendous matchup between the two. They had a great feud for years, great storylines, great build-ups, and everything else. But and I'm going to talk to Jerry again this Sunday. I've seen Jerry numerous times over the years, but I'm going to talk to him again Sunday, and I'm going to ask him, what on earth were y'all thinking having a Kiss My Foot match where Bret Hart literally is sticking his toes in your mouth in the middle of the ring? Because like the camera zooms in as Bret Hart is literally sticking his toes into Jerry Lawler's mouth in the middle of the ring. Like, I can't, if you haven't seen it, go back and watch King of the Ring 95. If you don't want to watch the whole thing, no problem. But watch the ending of that match and tell me that that's not some really gross stuff. So, and then on top of that, Bret Hart makes Jerry Lawler kiss his own foot and like shoves his own toes into Jerry Lawler's mouth. He literally like brings his leg up to his face and his foot up to his face and makes him suck his own toes. So that's the match that truly stands out from that event, and I can't wait to talk to Jerry about it this weekend. I'm going to see him Sunday. Really looking forward to that. Main event-wise, Diesel and Bam Bam Bigelow. Bam Bam had just turned face. He had just turned into a good guy. And Tatanka had turned heel, of course, the year before at SummerSlam. So you got heel Tatanka and Sid versus Bam Bam and Diesel. Sid basically just up and walks away from the match, lets Tatanka take the pin, which sets up the In Your House #2, which was July of 95, where Sid would be defeated in a lumberjack match by Diesel. So a lot of great stuff came out of that. But seriously, that toes thing, that messed me up even as a kid. So, back to you, Ace.
All right, well, I was going to let Joe chime in there on anything you wanted to say.
Just thinking about Sid, man. We were talking about him tonight when you posted his autograph on there. That's a rare autograph. Imagine that, Sid walking out of a match just like he walks out of an autograph session.
Yeah.
95 King of the Ring wasn't that great for me. Who else was in that tournament, Will?
Shawn, Undertaker, Yokozuna, Savio Vega, because he was the one that replaced Razor.
He replaced Razor. Wasn't one of those guys projected to win it, and the fans found out, and they went with Mabel instead to shock everybody?
So I think originally, the thought process originally, I believe, was Razor Ramon to win it. Razor had a tremendous match at King of the Ring 93. He'd been multi-time Intercontinental Champion by the time 95 ran around. 94, he was in the finals against Owen, and I think the only reason he didn't get it in 94 is because they were busy setting up the Owen-Brett feud. They brought Jim Neidhart back and brought Bulldog back and all that stuff for all that. But I really think in 95, the plan was, and I'm not sure who I'll talk to down the line, but I'll talk to somebody and just ask them. Hell, I may even try to talk to Big Kev and just see what he says. But, the thing is, I really think that was the year they were going to push Razor. I think it was still a little too early to push Shawn at that point. Shawn had just been out. Shawn had just come back. Shawn would go on the very next month to become a 3-time Intercontinental Champion when he defeated Jeff Jarrett in July at the In Your House. But I really think it would have been Razor's tournament. He got injured like a week and a half before that happened, and they ended up putting Savio Vega in there. If you remember, Savio Vega was just, supposedly a guy who was in the crowd that came in to help Razor a couple times, but really he was one of the Colognes, from Puerto Rico, from the wrestling family, the Colognes.
Right, yeah. I just remember that somebody was really heavy favored. And you're probably right with Razor. If it wasn't Razor, it was somebody else in that tournament.
Maybe Sean.
And fans
yeah,
are
Luger,
already
Yokozuna,
figuring it
yeah.
out. And Vince was like, no, we're going to go this way. And we got King Mabel out of it instead, which was horrible. He's brought, man, when you look at the list of King of the Rings, who do you jack up there as like the worst King of the Rings of all time? I can think King Mabel. I think Billy Gunn. And really, that's it, because Shamrock was I mean, he didn't do anything really, but Shamrock was a better King of the Ring than Mabel was.
Well, later on in time, you had King Booker. That was pretty lame.
Yeah, we got a cool figure out of it, though. William Regal, I think, would have been a really cool, and he talked about that too, where he won King of the Ring, and he started doing that darker character, then he got busted and got suspended. But I think he would have been a really good King of the Ring guy as they moved on. Oh,
You know who else
other guy that was
really
bad King of the Ring was King Barrett. He was bad.
King Barrett was bad. You know who else was bad? It was Edge. Edge was a terrible King of the Ring.
Yeah, he didn't need that. You know,
No,
he really,
for the timing,
did.
For the timing, it was terrible. 2000, when Angle won it, Angle really ran the hell out of that whole angle because, you know, he was coming out in the crown and everything else, and he had a lot of fun with it. And it was very entertaining. Edge won it. And it's like you would never even know 2 months later the guy was supposed to be the King of the Ring. You know?
No, because didn't he get a trophy that year? Didn't he get the trophy? And that's when
it was
Christian,
2001. 2001 King of the Ring. It was lame.
No, but I'm tired. The following year, 2002, with Brock Lesnar.
Yeah. Well, he needed that in 2002 to propel him, because you got to remember Brock was taking on matches where he was facing 2 and 3 guys at a time in matches because he was the next big thing. So they would book him to face 2 and 3 guys at a time, and then they put him in the King of the Ring tournament. So unless he was to get disqualified, he's your obvious king. And then, of course, that goes on to set up Rock and Brock for SummerSlam 2002, which was a really good match.
Yeah. Big B, did you have anything to add that Will and
No,
Joe?
I mean, those guys, Will did bring up, and I did forget about the whole Kiss My Foot match and how disgusting it was with Brett just shoving toes down Jerry Lawler's throat. So,
God damn.
hopefully Will could give us an update when he talks to Lawler on how that felt or why they did it.
So we do have a few comments here. So Thomas is saying, with that added pay-per-view in June, they couldn't use Hogan because of his contract. And Thomas is saying Jerry's foot was extremely dirty. He's also saying Bulldog came back at SummerSlam 94 sitting in the front row.
Right. So what propelled Bulldog to come back was the whole Family Feud situation where Anvil had come back with Brett, turned on Brett. So Anvil was now in Owen's corner. So then that brings Bulldog back at SummerSlam. You had a lot of great matches on Raw, and you had a lot of great matches like at house shows where it was Brett and Bulldog versus Owen and Anvil. So that was really good. Also, too, Thomas is exactly right about the pay-per-views. You know, they did add pay-per-views in 1995. Both companies did. WWF went to the every month programs, and so did WCW. So, that's a really great point. I missed that point. So thank you, Thomas, for covering that.
Yeah, and just think, the Bulldog the year before, he was fighting Vader for the World Heavyweight title.
I know.
WCW.
And he probably should have won it at least once.
And I think we just came up on the anniversary of Bulldog's passing not too long ago.
I think Bulldog should have been at least WCW champion one time. Hell, they had 2 world titles over there at the time he was there. He could have had one of them.
Yep.
So Thomas is saying that Pillman and Alex Wright had a really good match.
Yep. That was the opener for Great American Bash 95, I believe.
Great American Bash was always one of my favorite pay-per-views. It really was, dating all the way back to 90 when Sting won the World Heavyweight title, coming out in that red, white, blue gear. I mean, I became a really big Sting fan at that point.
Yeah.
Roger Cooper saying Sheamus didn't need it. and then
It was
Tom-
1990, right, Joe?
Something like that, yeah.
It was 90 because it's when he won the belt from Flair.
Yeah. He came back.
Yeah.
Remember the year before he was supposed to win it, and we got Lex Luger instead because Sting tore out his ACL climbing that cage, and then we got the dreaded RoboCop.
Yeah.
Thomas is saying Edge needed the King of the Ring victory as they were starting his singles run.
There's no doubt about that. He probably needed it, but what I'm saying is he never did anything with it. Where a lot of these guys, they really played it into their character, and they did a lot of character building with it, and it created a lot of opportunity for them. But the point I was trying to make with Edge was he never did anything with it. Like, you never saw King Edge become a thing. Like, it never caught on. Like with Angle running around with the crown on his head, Mabel running around with the crown on his head, Owen Hart, the King of Hearts. Like, that literally made the rest of his career, in my opinion. That happened in June of 94, and all the way up until when he passed away in 99. Everybody remembered the night that he won the King of the Ring in 94.
Right, because Austin never wore a crown when he won it.
Yeah.
And I don't think Edge did. Was Edge the first guy to get a trophy?
Probably.
And then obviously Brock wasn't going to wear it.
Well, you know what actually happened
the cup,
at 2001
yep.
King of the Ring, though? At 2001 King of the Ring, Edge beats Angle, and then Angle ends up going on and having that match with Shane. That match with Shane is really the match that stole the whole card. If you think about the 2001 King of the Ring, the only match that really stands out without checking the match listing is really just that match of Shane and Angle, where Angle was trying to throw Shane through the glass and the glass won't break. And, if you think about that event, that's the match that comes to mind.
Yeah, Angle was the MVP of that. Of that pay-per-view. He had a really good match with Edge, and then that barn burner with Shane. Like they said, it come to a point where Vince is like, "Please don't throw Shane through there no more. Stop," And he finally says, "I'm gonna throw him through," and he does. But that's one of the times that Vince was like,
"Did Shane
stop
want
doing
to be
this."
thrown through there too?
Yes.
As they're telling him to stop.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh.
Yeah. That was when he said when Kurt tried to suplex him the first time through it, it didn't break, and he said when he hit it, he's like it felt like I broke my tailbone, and
he did break his tailbone.
Yeah, so he said I'm laying there, and he's thinking, okay, just pin me, but then he's like, then I look at Angle and say, just do it again, and he's like, I want him to pick me up and just do it again. He's like, we wanted to put on a great match, and we did that. That interview from Shane and Kurt when they talked about it, I was like, that told the whole story. I was like,
right.
And I'll tell you, that was a very underrated match. A lot of people don't talk about it, but that match was a really good match. That was a very, very good match.
So great point there too, Ace. We've discussed we're going to do some match calling. We're going to put on a match, and start doing some match calling and talking about stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I would nominate that to be the first match that we all review, doing the match review.
Oh,
it's not a very long match, and what a great match to review. I think everybody would really enjoy that. So, and that's a good way to get people interactive as well. Great match. Great point. I really like that one.
So, Thomas Lynn was saying in WCW, wasn't Dusty and Bill Watts the bookers then?
Not that late. Not that late. Because you had
Dusty might have been, but
no, I think Bischoff took over by that point in '95.
Yeah, in '95.
Because we're getting ready to go into NWO era. I think Dusty was still around, but he wasn't booking.
And yeah, because you're talking June of '95 at that point. You're only 10 months out from the NWO invasion at that point.
Thomas saying Pete Crawford.
Could be, but it was definitely Bischoff that was president. So, as a matter of fact, if you watch those pay-per-views and stuff, WCW used to do the weirdest thing in the world. WWF never did this, but WCW used to have credits run at the end of the pay-per-view like a movie. Did you guys know that?
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Always
but
producer
they did.
Eric Bischoff or producer or whatever.
Yeah.
Dusty Rhodes and
Yep, called him president and all that stuff. So I don't think Bill Watts would have been gone. I think Bill Watts was gone like by the end of '93, as a matter of fact. So
He was gone after Simmons won the championship, and then he was gone, I think, right around the Legends reunion, because that's when Hank Aaron came in. That first one that they did where they caught Bill Watts peeing off the side of the CNN towers.
yeah, so that would have been May of '93, the first Legends reunion, Slamboree.
Yeah, I think at that point, because they tried to get him to meet up with Hank Aaron, and Hank Aaron's like, no,
Yeah.
I don't want to see this guy.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's go ahead and jump into our next topic here. Big E, I'll start out with you on this one because you really like this one. The top 5 underrated tag teams of all time. So I'll go ahead and I'll start.
All right. I mean, because most of our lists we always do is always the top 5, but we're going to go do a little underrated. For me, it's kind of hard. There's a lot of tag teams out there. Most of mine are going to be older. My number 5, I'm going to go a combo because I couldn't decide really which one. So I'm going Can-Am Connection and Strike Force. I thought was underrated. Number 4, I'm going to go with the Dirty Dogs. That's my most recent tag team. I know there's a lot of tag teams now that we could definitely say is underrated.
I see the look. He's like, what?
Number 4, I'm going to go any team that Marcus Bagwell had. I thought was an underrated tag team. I enjoyed watching him in tag team action. Number 2, the Rockers.
I didn't hear that one.
Marcus Bagwell, any partner he was with, I thought a lot of his teams were underrated. And then number 2, the Rockers, I thought were underrated. And Will, if you got stunned on my other ones, you're going to get stunned on this one too. And I know I'm going to get slack for it, but Tully and Arn Anderson, outside of the Four Horsemen, I thought was underrated. They went to WWE. Yeah, they won the titles, I think, but I still think they're an underrated tag team. If it wasn't for them being part of the Four Horsemen, might not really know who they really were. So that's my list right there.
All right, Joe, I'll go to you.
I think I'm stumped at that moment. I'm gonna let Will go with that one.
I was with him except for the Dirty Dogs. I mean, everything else was pretty spot on, honestly.
I saw that look you gave him when he said the Dirty Dogs.
Yeah, no, I think everything else was 100% spot on. I think I think he's absolutely right there. Now my teams would have been different. So when I think of underrated tag teams, here's the thing that I think about: tag teams that are not your mainstream normal tag teams, like your Steiners, your LOD, all those guys. Those are your normal tag teams. Tag teams that I think are underrated are teams like Luger and Sting. They were tag team champions, WCW, incredible, but they're never really talked about in your main tag team, conversation. Like people say, who's the greatest tag team of all time? Everybody says Legion of Doom, Demolition, Steiners, all that stuff. But what about Pretty Wonderful? Anybody remember Pretty Wonderful? I mean, that is an underrated tag team. And Paul Orndorff. Paul Roma and Paul Orndorff. So I would say number 5, most underrated tag team of all time, WCW's Pretty Wonderful. What an incredible team that was. Number 4, I would put probably Max Payne and Cactus Jack from WCW. Ooh. Another, it's just not a tag team you think of, but you could literally put those guys in there against anybody. Number 3, underrated tag team in New Japan or Japan wrestling back then, Bam Bam Bigelow and Vader. What an incredible, amazing tag team. If you had those guys mainstream, WWF, WCW as a tag team, do you still have the same conversation that's all about the Steiners and all about the Road Warriors? Because if those guys were a mainstream tag team, those guys are incredible. Some of the other guys too, Hall and Nash. A lot of people never, ever, ever think of those guys as a tag team, and I think those two, I can't even remember. I want to say they were like 6 or 7 time WCW tag team champions, and not to mention they did team up a couple times as Razor and Diesel too over in WWF. Of course, Hall and Nash later on in WWE with the NWO. One of the greatest factions of all time, the NWO, if not the greatest faction of all time. So, and the main headliner that started off was the Outsiders tag team. When you talk about great tag teams, you talk about the Mount Rushmore tag teams. You never talk about the Outsiders. But in reality, those guys are probably one of the greatest tag teams ever. Underrated tag team only because they didn't get the mainstream coverage that they should have. I would say is probably what was it? Harlem Heat. Harlem Heat. So 10-time WCW tag team champions. But again, by the time they really got rolling and really got going and really started becoming noticeable and doing all the things that they're doing, then guess what happens? They break them up. Stevie Ray goes his way. Booker T starts down the singles path, wins every championship out there known to man. And you got to remember, too, and I got to be really careful how I word this, but you got to remember, too, back then, you didn't see a whole lot of African-American world heavyweight champions. You had Ron Simmons, but then you go over to WWE, and you really didn't see that stuff in WWE. And you have to remember, Booker T held the WWE World Heavyweight Championship as well after wearing the WCW World title 5 times. You didn't see a whole lot of that, especially in WWE. There was always this thing, and I always heard there was like a rumor, I don't know how true it was, that Vince's father had told him that a black champion would never sell. You would never be able to put people in the crowds. You would never be able to sell this stuff. So you just don't create a black champion. In 1997, and I know I'm a little off topic, so I apologize, but in 1997, you had Ron Simmons as the Farouk character go against The Undertaker in a WWF title match. And that could have been a really big historical moment for WWF, and they let it pass, and they kept the belt on Taker. But I think a lot of that, too, was still that stigma that, we can't have a black champion. And it wasn't for a long time, really until The Rock started winning world titles, that it became acceptable to have an African-American world champion. Even though The Rock is half Samoan, half African-American, that's when it became acceptable. So going back in there, mainstream before Booker and Stevie get separated, totally underrated tag team. So, and I know I've named more than 5, but I mean, those are some tremendous teams that are not on everybody's Mount Rushmore because you just don't think about them. But you put Hall and Nash against any tag team out there, and you've got a match. Last team, I think I got 4 out of 5, right? So my last team would be the Nasty Boys. Yes, they held world titles everywhere. Yes, they did all kinds of stuff. But you talk about an underrated team. People that just laughed at them or booed them because, they suck or whatever, or, they didn't look like the traditional team. The Nasty Boys were incredible. The Nasty Boys were in matches with LOD on major events. SummerSlam, you had Nasties and LOD. Over in WCW, I can't tell you how many countless pay-per-views, how many countless Saturday Night main events and everything else. You had the Nasties. And then when their tag team career was over, they broke apart and they were still winning singles titles. I think it was Knobs ended up winning the Hardcore Championship in WCW. So, and those guys, although Knobs has had some serious health issues, it wasn't just until a couple years ago that they finally stopped wrestling together. So very underrated tag team. Potential for Mount Rushmore tag teams, maybe not, because they're not in everybody's forethought. But I think there's an opportunity there to really say, if you're talking about the greatest teams of all time, Nasty's got to be right up there with LOD. They got to be right up there with the Steiners. There's some opportunity there. Go ahead.
Well, you definitely took one of mine because I was saying the Harlem Heat was one of mine that I felt was underrated. Owen Hart and the British Bulldog, I felt was kind of another one that was underrated. Eminem, that was another one. Now this one I might get a lot of flack for, but this is because this is my favorite wrestler of all time. But Kane and X-Pac, like they were really over with the crowd then until X-Pac turned on them in the fall of '99. So that to me, those are like very underrated tag teams.
So again, you went down the exact same path that I did. You had the same thought process that I did during the whole thing. It's not about the mainstream tag teams that you see all the time or you think of all the time.
It's not.
It's about the guys that were put together, most likely put together and didn't want to be put together because they wanted to have big singles careers, and really made that work. Look at Austin and Foley. Austin and Foley there, 97, early 98, whenever, I think it was 97, like mid 97, had a tag team going. They were world tag team champions. As Foley was Dude Love. That was a great tag team too, and if they had kept those guys together for a little bit longer before pushing Austin's run, they could have definitely been in that conversation as well. So a lot of tremendous tag teams there.
All right, Joe, how about you?
Well, I thought about this long and hard, and I looked at some stuff, and so for me, I'm going to go way back in the time machine. I'm going to go back to WCCW days and the dynamic duo, not Batman and Robin, Gentleman Chris Adams, and the handsome half-breed Gino Hernandez. Look at their feud with the Von Erichs. Drew money. They drew money. The Von Erichs drew money with them. The Von Erichs drew money with the Freebirds. So I look at, like Will does, not so much a championship ratings. I look at what they did for those territories. So they were there. Destruction Crew, the AWA. If you don't know who they are the Beverly Brothers in the WWE. Yep. I went with Young Pistols from WCW. And I just, like I said, I look at who could do great matches with people or put people over. I will go with Alexander because I thought Stars and Stripes was a great thing. And Will took another one pretty wonderful there. Everybody hated those guys, but they worked great as a tag team. And in Impact, I think I might be over mine. Underrated tag team Triple X. Alex Skipper and Christopher Daniels. Go back and look at some of those early TNA matches. What they did with America's Most Wanted in the Six Sides of Steel cage match. Or no, I'm sorry. That was before the Six Sides of Steel. But the TNA Asylum days, holy cow, man.
You get a lot of great comments here.
Oh, there's a lot of great comments coming in.
So I went all over the place with it. I got friends that are like the Southern Posse and stuff like that. Texas Hangmen that are underrated. Like I said, just because they didn't win championships didn't mean they didn't contribute to the business in a major way, because they did. Just different eras.
Correct.
All right, so a few of the comments we have is we have Stars and Stripes.
That's what I was going to go with.
Men at Work, Bagwell and Scorpio, Rotundo and Wyndham.
Men at Work. I remember them. High voltage.
And Thomas was saying I was a huge, Pretty Wonderful fan. And then Thomas Burnett also saying Dustin and Wyndham, Dustin and Steamboat. He's also saying Anderson, Keaton.
You know who else we didn't put on that list tonight? And I'm surprised that none of us did. I'm just thinking about it. Like the Bolsheviks and the Powers of Pain.
Like I said, there's a lot. I mean, we could have probably did a top 10 list. Probably got missed teams.
You could literally do a whole Mania on tag teams.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no doubt.
Well,
I honestly loved tag team wrestling. I thought it was great, and it's a shame that you don't see more of it nowadays. But I understand it too. They got paid the double the wrestlers and so on and so forth. But I loved the Crockett Cups back in the day. Just the superpowers, Dusty Rhodes, Magnum TA, Dusty Rhodes and Nikita Koloff, things like that. Those things. That Crockett Cup back in those eras is what we need to look at sometimes, because there was a lot of underrated tag teams in that tournament.
All right, well, because we're at that arc now, so as we're saying, our goodbyes and our final thoughts, you kind of just throw in your final respects for the referees who died at the same time. So, Big B, if you want to start out, give your respects and your final thoughts.
Yeah, within 24 hours, we lost two great refs. Hebner and uh, Tim White. Tim White was most known for being the handler for Andre the Giant's stuff when he was around. So big respects to them. My condolences go to all the fans and family out there for them. Also, want to give a shout out to Coast buddy Garrison Creed. He just went through surgery on his bicep. Hope he has a speedy recovery, gets back soon, and starts putting the smackdown on the wrestlers again. So that's my final thoughts, guys.
All right, Joe, how about you?
I think thanks for a good show, guys. It's always fun. Shout out to actually Brian Hebner. He retired from in-ring competition as a referee this past weekend too. He's doing the final sets of TNA or Impact tapings this week, but I thought it was Brian's father at first, and I was really upset about that. Then I looked and realized who Dave was, and he was a great talent for the WWE. He was there for many years behind the scenes that nobody knows about, and Tim White, oh my gosh, Tim White was involved in so many things. His last official in-ring match, go back and look at it, was WrestleMania 20, Christian and Chris Jericho, and you'll see in that match, Tim White, his reconstructed shoulder surgery there, he refereed it, and making that final pinfall, he could barely make the pinfall, and he re-injured that shoulder, and that's when he had to finally hang it up, but then he had a couple more great years behind the scenes and those comedy sketches where he was always trying to kill himself. I mean, that guy was amazing. He put him in any kind of role. So my heart goes out to those guys and those families. I mean, that's part of our history that's going away, and it's sad to see.
All right, Will, your final thoughts.
Yeah, so right on that too. You know, I met Tim multiple times at different WWE signings and some other things, and the guy was never anything, more than just totally respectful, totally cool. Yeah, I mean, just a huge shout out, man. It's sad, so many characters, so many people that we grew up with. I was having this conversation the other day, not just in wrestling, but our heroes from TV and everything else. The ones that we grew up with, a lot of them are going away, and it's almost like our childhood, and things that we did as young adults is going away, and it's really sad, but that is part of life, and it's our job as we continue to move forward in life to appreciate the memories and continue to have dreams for ourselves, and part of being people is to dream to do things on our own, and but cherish the memories at the same time. So terribly sorry, terribly sad to see that happen. However, in Dave's case, it appears from the outside looking in, and I could be totally wrong with saying this, that he maybe have been much better off, because I think he was suffering very severely. So, and nobody wants to see a loved one or someone that they looked up to suffered. So maybe that was some relief, hopefully, for the family. I don't know. I don't know the situation there 100%, but I hope that there was some relief there. So, but it all comes down to the same thing I talk about all the time. Be nice to each other, be respectful to people. It's a lesson that I had to learn later, much later in life. And thank you goes a long way. And, you guys might see my posts pretty often. I say it all the time, and I post all the time. A simple thank you goes a long way and lets people know that you appreciate them. And it really goes a long way. There's an old saying that people don't remember certain things. Like, they don't remember, first days or first times of meeting people and different things like that. But they do remember how you made them feel. They may not remember the first thing you said to them, but they remember the first time you made them feel bad, or the first time you made them feel good. And I try to stress this with my kids too. And I know we're way over time, Ace, but let me tell this real quick story. There's a little girl at my kid's school. She's special needs. She's Down syndrome. And all these kids are out there in the mornings. I go and I drop off my kids at school in the morning. They're all out there playing on their phones. They're all out there on their skateboards. They're all out there doing whatever they're not supposed to be doing. And this little girl with Down syndrome, she's 6th or 7th grade. She gets out of the car every morning with the biggest smile on her face, waving at everybody, telling everybody hello. And she's so happy to be there and excited because she's so happy to be with what she thinks is all her friends. And I tell my kids all the time, I said, when you see that little girl, you make sure you go say hi, how are you, how's everything going, and you talk to her and you give her the utmost respect because she's the only one that gets out here and is really positive and is really excited and happy for the day when all of y'all are sitting around here looking at your phones and playing on skateboards and doing stuff you're not supposed to be doing. As a matter of fact, I used the word, I said all the rest of y'all are a bunch of assholes. She's the only good one in the bunch. So y'all need to make sure that y'all really treat her the best you can. So in saying that, it all comes back to how you take care of people and how you treat people and what people will remember about you because everyone is mortal. And this is how I'm wrapping this whole thing in with what Joe was saying about, Dave and Tim and all that is everybody is mortal. And when you leave and you're gone, what you want people to remember is how you made them feel. And that's what they will remember. So, guys, I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody that watches. I hope someone out there heard what I had to say tonight. I hope someone out there needed to hear what I said tonight. And a huge shout out to my friends that are in the chat, Top Rope Collectibles, Thoughts Count Anywhere, Coast to Coast Entertainment Network, Crispy Bacon, who's behind the scenes. Crispy, great job as always, man. Couldn't do it without you. Huge shout out to the Chief. I see he's posting right there. Chief from Thoughts Count Anywhere. Guys, I know we went a little long today, but the message that we put out here at the end was absolutely worth the extra 10 minutes. So back to you, Ace.
All right, yep, and definitely condolences to the family. It's always hard to lose any loved one, especially when they are kind of legends in the company. You can even call any type of referees legends. It doesn't matter. I know when people think of legends, they think about that they have to be wrestlers. I'm like, no, they don't have to be. They can be referees. They can be backstage people. They can be anybody. And so just understand that our condolences are there, and just want to wish everybody the best of luck with everything, and hold your family tight, hold your friends tight. You never know. You never know when that's going to be it. So for that, we definitely want to thank everybody for watching, and you can catch us again next Tuesday for another episode of Tuesday Night Mania. Everybody have a fantastic night, and we will see you later.